A cold winter's night in December 1914. The ground is frozen solid, covered in a pristine blanket of snow. But this peaceful scene masks a grim reality, for this is no ordinary winter landscape. We're looking at no man's land, the desolate stretch between the British and German trenches during World War I. The Great War had been raging for 5 months. Already, nearly 1 million soldiers had lost their lives in what would become one of history's bloodiest conflicts. Yet on Christmas Eve 1914, something remarkable happened, something that would challenge our understanding of humanity in wartime. As darkness fell on December 24th, British soldiers huddled in their trenches noticed something unusual. From the German lines, barely 100 yards away, came an unexpected sound. Not gunfire, not explosions, but singing. Stille Nacht, Heilige Nacht, silent night, holy night. The familiar melody drifted across no man's land. Private Albert Morin of the 2nd Queen's Regiment later wrote, "It was a beautiful moonlit night, frost on the ground, white almost everywhere. And there was a lot of commotion in the German trenches. And then they started singing Silent Night. The British soldiers were stunned. Some began to sing along in English. Then something even more extraordinary occurred. Small Christmas trees with candles began appearing along the German parapets. Calls of Merry Christmas in English rang out from the German lines. What happened next would become one of the most remarkable episodes of the entire war. Cautiously, soldiers from both sides began emerging from their trenches. In some places, German soldiers held up signs reading, "You no shoot, we no shoot." Despite orders against fraternization with the enemy, men who had been trying to kill each other just hours before met in no man's land. Captain Robert Patrick Miles remembered, "We shook hands, wished each other a Merry Christmas, and were soon conversing as if we had known each other for years. We were in perfect agreement that if we had the making of the war, it wouldn't happen." The soldiers exchanged small gifts, whatever they had on hand: buttons, badges, chocolate, cigarettes, and even photographs of loved ones changed hands. In several areas, impromptu football matches broke out. The famous Christmas Day football match between the British and Germans near Ypres has become legendary, though historical records suggest multiple smaller games occurred along the front. But perhaps the most poignant moments came when soldiers from both sides helped each other bury their dead who had been lying in no man's land. Joint burial services were held, with prayers said in both German and English. Former enemies stood shoulder to shoulder, paying respects to their fallen comrades. The truce wasn't universal, fighting continued in some sectors, and in others, the peace lasted only through Christmas Day. But in several areas, the unofficial ceasefire continued through New Year's Day. As one British soldier wrote home, "The Germans seem to be very nice fellows, and it seems a great pity we should be fighting them." Military leadership on both sides was alarmed by these spontaneous outbreaks of peace. Orders were issued forbidding fraternization with the enemy. By 1915, the war had become more bitter, with the introduction of poison gas and increasingly devastating weapons. The Christmas truce would never be repeated on the same scale. But the story of the Christmas truce endures, not just as a moment of humanity in the midst of unprecedented slaughter, but as a reminder of our shared humanity. It shows how ordinary soldiers, far from the politicians and generals who sent them to war, could recognize the common humanity in their supposed enemies. In the words of British soldier Bruce Bairnsfather, "I wouldn't have missed that unique and weird Christmas Day for anything. I spotted a German officer, some sort of lieutenant I should think, and being a bit of a collector, I intimated to him that I had taken a fancy to some of his buttons. I brought out my wire clippers and with his permission, clicked the buttons off his coat and put them in my pocket. I then gave him 2 of my buttons in exchange. These small acts of kindness, these moments of connection, stand in stark contrast to the industrial-scale killing that defined World War I. The Christmas truce reminds us that even in our darkest moments, our capacity for peace, understanding, and shared humanity can shine through. As we reflect on this remarkable event over a century later, perhaps its greatest lesson is this: peace is possible, even in the most unlikely circumstances, when we choose to see the humanity in our fellow human beings. Thanks for joining me in this epic War and Peace Deal video that reflects the Christmas essence, sharing happiness and warm regards. Please subscribe to my channel for more historical incidents that inspire the mankind.